The organization Lifeline was established in Australia in 1963. The organization came to South Africa in 1968 to help ordinary South Africans in times of life crises through their series of awareness campaigns and call center operations. Offering counseling, social work, and other support services, the organization has established itself as a benchmark in many communities across the country. And we are joined on the program to discuss the work that the organization does and how it provides these services by Mr. Takalo, who is the CEO of Lifeline, as well as the social work supervisor, Hendriettah Khupe. Pleasure to have you with us. Much appreciated, and welcome. Now, let's just look at the brief history of the organization first. It came to South Africa quite some time back, isn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how did it happen? It was established in Australia, just so we gain an appreciation for its history.
No, yes, it did. And thanks very much for having us, Pratim. Lifeline was started in Australia in 1968, and it came over to South Africa in 1963. In Australia,
Yes.
It came over in 1968, and then it started spreading right across the country, on different years. And subsequently, here we are. It's basically an organization which renders social services. If you like, you may call them social work services, basically. And it's an organization which fundamentally deals with people affected and infected by HIV and AIDS. And we're also dealing with people who are involved in gender-based violence, at different levels. And I think we'll get to that later, but that's what we are doing at the moment. However, Lifeline is about basically building community heart. It's actually about all social ills. It's not necessarily about HIV and AIDS alone and gender-based violence and many other social ills that you may find in communities everywhere in the country where you find our centers.
Khupe, tell me a bit more about the social work side of things and the amount of work that you are doing. I'm a bit familiar with Lifeline, but not to the extent that you are. That we think that when you are going through difficulties, you must go to the government, for instance, or you don't have anyone to turn to. But Lifeline is that kind of organization that you can turn to if you don't know what to do if you are in a situation, isn't it?
Yes, that's true. Allow me to clarify that Lifeline has got 17 centers right around South Africa, but we are coming from the national office that affiliates all the centers. So at the national office, we are running a call center. Basically, we are telephonic in approach. So as the social work department, we are responsible for offering debriefing services to the counselors who are actually doing the telephonic counseling on the line. So basically, we are there to monitor their emotional wellness and to intervene. We also take part in face-to-face appointments as well. Someone can call on the line and be offered a telephonic counseling, but a follow-up of a face-to-face will be needed. So that is where we pitch in as well as the social work unit.
What kind of cases do you see? I mean, some of the counseling that you provide is relatively new, I would assume, especially the one relating to HIV and AIDS, for instance. But over the years, there must be some typical cases that you've been seeing for years up to now.
Okay, our societies are really faced with a lot of social ills, as my CEO has alluded to. So there are a lot of cases that are filled with trauma that we are facing. Remember, we've said that we are manning 2 projects on the HIV and AIDS helpline and on the gender-based violence. So all our cases are one way or the other related either to HIV or to gender-based violence. So these are issues of domestic violence where a wife or a husband will be beaten by either of the 2 parties, where someone is helpless, is needing a shelter for herself and her kids. We are having issues where someone has just gone for testing and he doesn't know or she doesn't know how to cope with his results. So they'll be needing counseling, or someone doesn't even know where to start disclosing and such cases.
This is not a government agency, is it?
No, it's not. It's purely an NPO. However, we do partner with government departments. At a national level, like she said, we are sitting at the national office. We do partner with the National Department of Health and the National Department of Social Development, including the Provincial Department of Social Development in Gauteng. And we do survive, of course, through funding from different funders that we have at Lifeline. And we are completely independent of government. Of course, we do partner with them. But just shortly, Bratim, Look, government, in actual fact, the services we are rendering are supposed to be rendered by government departments. However, we know there's limitations. Government does not have, that complete capacity to try and reach out to all communities, which is why I think government, what the Department of Social Development and Health, what they are doing is to try and get into partnerships with NGOs like us so that we can try and reach in those areas where government is unable to reach.
And I can imagine, some of the community-based organizations are better placed to identify problems
Absolutely.
much earlier, or on the basis of the queries they receive or
Absolutely.
calls you receive from your clients, as it were.
Absolutely,
But,
yes.
my interest in the work of Lifeline is also from the perspective of people who may not know that help is nearby, right? We all go through difficulties of a certain nature, where it's trauma or whatever, and you think you need to have resources first before you go for counseling. Maybe go to a psychologist or something. Or you don't even know where to find such a psychologist. So talk me through a typical situation that a person might be faced with, which might lead you to calling Lifeline, for instance.
Okay, we do not have a narrow-based approach where there is a certain typical situation that you might be faced in order to look for us. But we're saying whatever issue is affecting you emotionally is our concern, because we are out there to embrace emotional wellness. So it might be work-related issues, it might be family problems, it might be your individuality. There are a lot of issues that can affect you. So we understand that emotional uniqueness is a basic need to each and every one. So people's needs are different and they vary. So we are saying define yourself and tell us what is it that is affecting you, and we are here to help.
What are the typical cases, or the more common cases that you receive calls for? I can just mention one that crosses my mind. I think parents or young people who live with the problem of drug addiction, probably is a growing concern, and the parents who've got to live with such children are phoning you. And I know of a few who don't know where to turn to. Do you see such people, or do you take calls from such people?
Yes, we take calls from all walks of life. Remember, we are nation-based, and as a call center, we are taking calls from all provinces. So it varies depending on what social ill is affecting a particular community, and substance abuse is one of them. But we are also having a lot of calls that are focused on gender-based violence, especially now that we're approaching towards the 16 days of activism. There are a lot of people who are coming out to and who are calling on regards of domestic violence.
And of course, when we talk gender violence, most of the time we think of it as women being on the receiving end of this abuse, but more men coming forward as well?
Men are coming forward, but when it comes to the actual percentage on the ground, it's just that we will rely on the reported cases that are coming through. So when it comes to reporting, there are very few men who are really reporting issues of abuse. But nonetheless, that is the whole point of us going out to make campaigns and awarenesses, so that we educate people that gender is not only about female, but gender cuts across each and every one.
Okay, let's look at the details then. How do people get in touch with Lifeline?
Okay, as Lifeline, we are call center based, and we are manning 2 projects that are toll-free. And the first one is the Stop Gender Violence Helpline. It's a toll-free number sponsored by Telkom. It's 0800 150 150. So this line is specifically for any issues that have to do with your gender-based violence. And then we have a different line altogether that deals with your HIV-related issues. It's also a toll-free number on a Telkom line. It's 0800 012 322.
Okay. Those are the numbers to call generally,
Yes.
and they are toll-free, meaning you don't pay
Yes.
when you call them. And you will find professionals the other end of the line.
Yes, we have lay counselors that are skilled and qualified.
All right. And issues of confidentiality, when we talk about calling and providing your details, people are always concerned about that. And I suspect that's what makes people not come forward when they're in very difficult situations and cannot seek help.
Okay, we have found telephonic counseling as being very helpful, because it provides that anonymity from the caller to the counselor. So it becomes very easy for someone to be able to open up to a person on the other hand that he or she does not see, and that who or she will not offer any judgment towards that individual. So it is an advantage to be on a call center basis because it really offers that anonymity in an individual, and confidentiality is highly absorbed.
All right, Jerry, Takalo, let's demystify Lifeline as we conclude the interview. What are the issues we need to understand about it? I've just raised one of confidentiality, but what else is there to know?
No, I think your viewers can actually be guaranteed that we have got very trained professionals in the call center. And myself and Hendriettah, we both qualified social workers. I may be the CEO at Lifeline, but I have this basic training on social work. So my background is informed by social work itself. So what we do in Lifeline in ensuring that people are actually receiving the required assistance, we try and make sure that we enforce, because as professionals, we can't just be sitting there and allowing people to do as they so wish. We try and make sure that people do preserve, you know, the ethics, the professional ethics within social work services itself, but also, you know, through training and through proper monitoring of the calls that are coming in, because we have supervisors who've been there for quite some time who are actually, you know, sitting with the call center officials so that they can try and monitor the calls that are coming in and out, so that, I mean, in the end, you can be guaranteed that clients are actually receiving, you know, the kind of help which they deserve. But also, just lastly, our service is not necessarily, of course, in the main, people can call. That's what they should be doing, because we are not everywhere. But there's people who are nearby. They can also walk in.
Walk-in centers.
Absolutely, yes. And it's not enough. In some other instances, people, you know, have a feeling that it's not enough for them to be getting assistance through a telephone call. But what they can do, they can just walk in, and there's professionals who are waiting to actually sit with them and walk with them through the path in ensuring that ultimately they receive a
Jerry Takalo, thank you very much, and Hendriettah Khupe, much appreciated. Thanks for your time and helping us take the message to the people, because many go through difficulties, but help is at hand. Lifeline, and we've got those numbers: 0800 150 150. The other one is 0800 12
012 322.
012
322.
We got it. Thank you very much. Well, there you are. You've got the information you need. Lifeline has been in South Africa for more than 40 years. It's got trained counselors at the other end of the line waiting to assist you.